In what was supposedly an uneventful last day of the legislative session, Texas lawmakers were subjected to loud, raucous protesters by demonstrators opposed to Senate Bill 4, a strict anti-immigration law that bans sanctuary cities and punishes authorities who don't enforce the law. Hundreds of protesters made their way to the House gallery and began to chant and blow whistles, unfurling banners, some of which read, "See you at the polls." The protesters briefly halted the session, but were eventually escorted out of the Capitol building. But then the tension turned to the floor after one Republican lawmaker called ICE immigration and custom enforcement, telling fellow lawmakers he wanted the protesters deported. This enraged Hispanic lawmakers, which resulted in a shoving match and name-calling. So joining us by Skype from Fort Worth, Texas, is Democratic State Representative Raymond Romero. Hello, Representative Romero.
Good morning. Glad to be on.
Great.
Enjoying your show.
Awesome. Great to have you. So, what happened yesterday? We saw this sort of highlights that appeared like a very, very tense situation unfold in which someone was actually threatened with their life. How would you describe it?
Well, initially, I describe it as a very beautiful event, in my opinion, a very peaceful, organized demonstration of those that came out, that even after a law as hateful as SB4 has already been signed into law by governor, a tremendous amount of folks, especially young folks, that say this isn't over. The fight has only begun, and even though the governor has signed this bill into law, we're going to fight against it from now, and as you just mentioned, at the polls as well. Mm-hmm. What happened on the floor was a perfect example of the fear of SB4, which is the Show Me Your Papers bill here in Texas, and what we believe is going to happen throughout cities and counties all over the state, which is potentially an Anglo officer or a person that's not of the Latino community will see a Latino body and say that folks must all be illegal. And that's what, unfortunately, is what Representative Rinaldi saw yesterday in the crowd of folks that were there exercising their First Amendment rights. And he decided that the right thing to do at that time was to call ICE. Clearly, myself and some of the other members of the Mexican American Legislative Caucus were not thrilled with his position. And he began to tell us explicitly how much he felt like he had that right to do so.
Mm. And so, what do you think will happen moving forward? Do you really believe that there is sort of an irreparable damage in terms of your ability to work together in the legislature, given this sort of pretty much violent altercation that happened on the floor?
Well, I think that there's been a little bit it's been blown up a little bit bigger than what actually happened. There was actually, other than just folks being separated on the floor, that was the only thing that could be called physical. What did happen, and I wasn't a part of that conversation, is when one of the members said, "Hey, this isn't over. I'll see you again." He says, "Well, if I see you, I'll put a bullet in your head." That was his response, according to the alleged vocal threat that was given by Representative Rinaldi. The House Ethics and General Investigating Committee is going to look into it completely. But in terms of our ability to work together, I'll tell you, Matt Rinaldi and a few others like him. But I would say Matt Rinaldi sort of stands alone. He's a hothead. He's gone through some troubling times in his life, and I think that it's shown to bear yesterday. He wasn't able to control himself. I mean, this was the last day of our session. There were families all on the floor, which isn't normally the case because folks are there to gather. This is Memorial Day. I was standing with Representative from El Paso, Cesar Blanco, and Representative from San Antonio, Philip Cortez, 2 U.S. veterans. We had our arms around each other, embracing one another, thanking those people that came out in protest of SB4. And he felt it was wise to come in and tell us, there were no other Republicans around except for himself, to come in and tell us that he had just called ICE. Mm-hmm. And it escalated, absolutely escalated. I'm a son of Mexican immigrants. I'm very proud of not only my history, but of the history of my parents and the role that they played since they've been here since 1961. My dad was a former bracero that came here through the work programs to work on the farms of California. So I'm proud of my dad's history, proud of my mother's history, and I think that's what's wrong with this country right now. And I think the news report before explains it, that there's a tremendous amount of hate And that hate is deeply rooted in ignorance.
Yes.
Ignorance because communities don't want to know each other. They absolutely choose not to. They don't know the Latino community. They don't know the immigrant community, and it's just because they've chosen not to. They don't want to go into our communities. Redistricting is killing this country. It's killing us on a congressional level. It's killing us on a statewide level. We have to do something about it. And the people have to stand up.
Yes.
And we have to stand up and say, I'll be doggone, I'm not going to continue like this, and I love my neighbor. And, you know, Dad, you might be a little ignorant. And you need to get out of it.
Yes.
I mean, I am sick and tired of it. And I tell you, I grew up in a rough neighborhood. I'm proud of it. I live 9 blocks from where my mother raised us, and I'm proud of that fact.
Yes. Well, I'm sure they're proud of you, and hopefully, you know, there will be some sort of recompense for actually threatening someone with their life on the House floor. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm glad to be on. Thank you.
Absolutely.
A peaceful protest turned deadly. 37-year-old black man was shot and killed by Baton Rouge police. His hands are in the air, and you still get shot by the cops.
Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead.
We're not going to let hate define us.
Race is a big part of this.
If truly all lives matter, then all lives need to matter equally.
What we require is action. What we require is accountability. We understand that black lives do matter, and we will keep focused on this issue.
NewsOne Now, every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.